everyone knows the famous Elven characters of Galadriel and Elrond, but I believe there is no story without you. Do you agree?
I'd have to agree with that, yes.
Good answer.
Although, no, obviously there are many, many other stories and themes in Tolkien and in our show, but ultimately the story of the Rings of Power is the one that brings them all to a head. But that's what's so interesting about Tolkien. For such a major storyline, he gives Celebrimbor very little page space. He's mentioned briefly, and those contradict each other, those mentions. So what our hunt, the showrunners, myself, the heads of department, the directors and the writers, is to find the hooks that Tolkien has given us, hang a few things on there, see how that goes, and then rummage around in the wardrobe a little more, see what else one can find in there, a few more hooks, a few more bits and pieces, hang it all up and see how it looks. And it's also the first time that Celebrimbor has been featured in a live-action adaptation of Tolkien's stories, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing what you all think about him.
Can you tell us what do we expect out of the series, and what is this world, and what's been the experience for you being a part of this?
Thank you for the question. First of all, it's really, really good to be back in India too, like Naz. I've had a beautiful experience working here in the past, so very happy to be back. Yes, Elendil, who is, as we see him at the beginning of the series, he's a sea captain, very capable man, but he's been widowed and he's trying to deal with his grieving adult children, two of whom are present here in Maxim and Emma, as you say. And he's a very well-known character in the Legendarium, and many fans of the movies would have seen him in brief, but if you read the books, he's referred back to a lot, and he's a sort of hero archetype. And he's very dear to a lot of the fans' hearts for that reason, because of his ultimate self-sacrifice at the end during the alliance of elves and men, where he dies in the act of trying to defeat Sauron. So, but again, rather like Charles was saying about Celebrimbor, there are only these sort of limited signposts along the way that Tolkien gives us. So there's this great sort of responsibility and privilege and excitement to be able to fill out those gaps. And where we see him at the very beginning is this one. Tolkien's Atlantis is Numenor, the island of Numenor, where Elendil comes from. And at this point in the story, Numenor is at its absolute peak, but it's right on the precipice between a sort of more nationalist side of the island, which feels they need an independence from the elves, and a more faithful side. And Elendil is very much torn between those two parts of society, between his head and his heart. His head is rational, pragmatic, trying to keep his family safe, and his heart is drawn towards the faithful. And something of the schism in that society is also reflected deep in the family within his children, so that there's a lot for him to deal with at the beginning, and I'm very excited to chart this man through that journey. So yeah, I'm very, very privileged and very excited to be here.
As an actor being on the set, the adaptation of Numenor, nobody's ever seen this world. So how is it to be on a set which so many people have imagined but never really seen? You were actually there. So what was the experience like?
It was genuinely extraordinary in the sense that in the modern world we expect everything to be CGI now, but we built Numenor, we built the capital city of Numenor, and it took 6 months to build. And I remember the first day walking onto that set was quite an extraordinary experience. I was with JD and he showed me around, and just the attention to detail, the amount of skill and brilliance in every department on this job, and ultimately the dedication and love that you feel. So they built the city from the ground up, and you can feel the history and how architecture changed over centuries, where loyalties lie, and the changing face of the landscape around it. Because that was I think my second day on set was filming a sequence on the beach with Galadriel as we're riding our horses. And again was with JD, and we realized that this is the first time that we'd seen the geography of Numenor, the physical geography of Numenor. And that was another beautiful moment to think, wow, I've actually the first person to be part of that. So that was super exciting. And there's one member of our security team from Amazon who walked us back when we were in Comic-Con, walked us back to the hotel. And she said, I've been told not to talk to the actors and geek out about Lord of the Rings. I was like, come on, geek out. Let's see what you got. But she'd said both her parents were fans of Lord of the Rings. She'd read it. She'd read the Silmarillion. She'd watched the movies. And she said, and when she saw Numenor on screen for the first time, she'd seen the first 3 episodes, she said she just burst into tears. And I took that as a really, really good sign that oftentimes when we read the books, our imagination is really powerful, but somehow this exceeded her expectations, or should I say enhanced her expectations of what Numenor was. So I was really, really pleased about that.